There were times when I was sick, but I worked. There were times when I had the flu, and I worked. Uh, I did a show with Les Martinson, and in fact, Dennis Hopper was in that show. And anyhow, the thing of the show was a bunch of people in a stagecoach, and they wound up in a little cabin somewhere. The coach was running from the Indians, and it stopped there, and we're all in there trapped by the Indians. And in the end, or finally, becomes a thing between me and the Indian chief of, I called him a coward if he wasn't willing to fight me, that he was hiding behind his men. And I deliberately tried to goad him into a fight. What I didn't know is that he would pick he knew where there was some quicksand, and he picked the quicksand, and they had to duplicate that on one of the stages where they had an elevator and a pit where they could raise you and lower you. Rather than just a fight between he and I, he chose the quicksand, and we both get in the quicksand and see who would win. Whoever quit first would lose the fight. And so that was in February. It was cold. And whatever stage they had that pit on with the elevator in, the water had sawdust and oats, I think, in it. Made it look like quicksand. Thing is, they were supposed to heat the water, and they didn't do it. So both the Indian and I are down. We're barefooted, and we're just wearing our Levi's, and he's wearing his buckskin, and we're bare-chested, and we go into this thing, and it was cold. And Les Martinson was dressed up in an overcoat, earmuffs, scarf, and gloves. And I told him, I said, "You got to be kidding, this water's freezing." He said, "Fellas, if you could just give me 15 minutes. But it was an hour and a half, and every now and then we'd get out, stand in front of the big lights to warm up, but that's how we did that scene. So I guess all I'm saying is, it saved them a lot of money not to have to put that off and warm the water up and all that. So, I did a lot of things for them when I didn't feel like it, and I could have stayed home, whatever. But I liked Jack Warner, and when I was there for 8 years because I had to sign a new contract to get a raise, and new 7-year contract. And when it was up, he invited me for the first time to have lunch with him in his private dining room. And we talked, and he said, "Clint, we'd love to have you stay on, either do more Cheyennes or we'll get you a new TV show if you want," because he knew I was tired of it. And I said, "Well, I really appreciate that." I said, "Warner's is like home to me." But I said, I sort of would like to get away from television for a while. Of course, television is a medium where you do a whole lot more with a whole lot less, and you do it a lot faster. It's the nature of the beast. And, when you do features, assuming you got a good script and everything that goes with it, you got a chance to do something of greater magnitude, and you got the time and all to do it in. But he said, "Well, we don't have anything right now." I said, "Well, I'd love to do features for you." And that's how we parted company, on very good terms. And I can still see him walking down the main street at Warner Brothers with his head bowed and an unlit cigar in his mouth, hands clasped behind his back, walking very slowly, deep in thought, and I'd come along, and he'd see me, and he'd straighten up, and he'd grin, and he'd say, "Clint, my boy," and he'd always offer me a cigar, knowing that I would never accept it. But I liked Jack. I liked everybody there. I didn't want to be on bad terms with anybody.